Welcome, all you Star versus the Forces of Evil human fans out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din coming at you with another Star versus the Forces of Evil episode review. It's Season 4, Episode 13, Side A, titled A Boy and His DC 700XE, where we see that Marco actually has a little bit of a club going along with Heka, Pooh, Kelly, and the other Dragon Cycle riders. So they have this little bit of a club that every once in a while they go out and do this really kind of dangerous ride to this one, ravine that has all these perils and stuff like that. And we see that Kelly is the newest member of this group, and this is nice, just to see that Marco has his own kind of thing going that he's incorporating other friends into. It shows that Marco has this whole life outside of Star, and that's always a plus. Some characters sometimes end up becoming, completely joined at the hip with the main character, but as a side character, Marco has his own life, his own adventures, and his own experiences with other dimensions as well as Muni. But Marco mentions that, Kelly isn't the only new recruit into their Dragon Cycle riding group, as we come to find out Tom is also looking to join up and ride with the Dragon Riders. However, the others aren't too keen on the very limited skills that Tom is showing them. Although Marco makes it clear that apparently, Tom has this new dragon cycle that he doesn't really know too much about. He hasn't gotten to really care for the beast. And Tom really needs to try to take some time and kind of bond with it for the most part. So they go riding off to their destination, but Tom is completely unable to get the dragon to, get up in the air or just really obey any of his commands. So Marco decides to hold back for the moment and try to get, Tom up to speed on how to handle his dragon. And Marco even kind of calls Tom out on the fact that, despite the fact that Tom acts like he's an old pro, it's very apparent that Tom doesn't know a thing about what he's doing. So, Marco feels kind of exasperated because he's not really considering his dragon cycle to be a living creature. He's treating it as a tool. And Marco shows him it's very much like caring for a horse. You have to groom it, show it love, nurture it, and thus it'll, listen to you. It'll, follow your commands because it cares for you to a certain degree. So Tom takes this to heart and actually starts showing the dragon cycle a little bit more TLC. And while at first it doesn't quite take to Tom, it starts to slowly listen a little bit more and more until we get to the point where Tom can properly ride his dragon cycle. And so they take to the sky and actually get up in the air, and Tom is grateful to Marco, but he feels bad for taking Tom away from Kelly and the quality time they felt he would spend together, only for it to be revealed, much to my shock, that Kelly and Marco aren't breakup buddies anymore. Apparently at some point off screen they decided to break up being breakup buddies, which I'm just like, why though? I thought you had a good thing going. Was it just, it feels very weird that they just broke it off. It feels like that would have been a more major plot point, but Marco kind of feels like, oh, we broke things up amicably. But obviously Kelly, in a discussion with the rest of the group, is kind of a little put off by the whole situation. And so am I. It just feels like, what happened, guys? It felt like you were getting along swimmingly. And if nothing else, maybe they would have become a couple somewhere down the line. But just to have them just have split up the way that it's portrayed here just feels odd to me. Although even Hekapu kind of mentions that, she makes it kind of seem like the reason why she never got together with Marco was specifically because he was too far into his own head, and she likes her guys a little bit more simpler. And when Marco and Tom meet up with the rest of the gang, there's this uneasy moment between everyone where it's pretty apparent that Kelly's slightly bitter, but she does still enjoy being Marco's friend. So at least there's not real overwhelming baggage in that regard, although future episodes could prove that wrong. And once they get started to go to their true destination where it'll be a lot more dangerous, Marco makes it clear that Tom is under no obligation to go through with this. He won't be seen as any lesser of a person if he decides to just back off now, but Tom is determined to ride with them, so they slowly get closer to the valley, where the whole, devil mark whatever is going on. However, Tom is still unable to completely control his dragon cycle in these confined spaces, not to mention when a herd of dragon cycles go flying by, it's obvious his dragon cycle would rather be a little bit more free and free roaming. And Marco makes it clear, it's just like, look, man, you really, he keeps reiterating, you don't have to do this, you have nothing to prove. Maybe it's best if you hang back. Especially once they actually get to the, valley where all the dangerous stuff is, that even has like these fists that'll come out the side of the wall to, try to strike at the dragon riders. And, after seeing a lot of the injuries that some of these guys can actually suffer, Marco really tries to drive home, look, man, you don't have to prove anything here. He's really trying to make Tom realize that there's no peer pressure in doing this. But Tom feels that there kind of is. It's kind of made known that, Tom was always seen as the cool one, the more impressive guy, what with the fire and the being the demon and all that good stuff. But with Marco, with all the experiences he's had and the life that he's lived, the other life that he's lived, Marco has kind of ascended to being the cool guy. Despite his lame moments, he's pretty cool in a lot of people's eyes, and Tom feels kind of inadequate because he doesn't really have any kind of life of his own. He doesn't go anywhere, he doesn't do anything, which was driven home with his, outing with Jana and all that Tom doesn't really have his own thing. There's nothing that makes him feel like he's cool or interesting. He just kind of feels empty. So he feels that he has to do this to kind of prove things to himself. And Marco lets him know, it's just like, there's nothing wrong with just doing your own thing. Just trying to find what you prefer and just embracing that. And for Marco, that's riding his dragon cycle. And, at first, Tom is just going to go through with it anyway. He feels that he has to do this, but once he notices that his dragon cycle is still longing to be free, he decides that, it's better for his dragon cycle to do what it wants. He wants to actually try to treat it like a living being, so he releases it into the wild. And he just decides, what? I can fly. I'm just gonna run through it on my own, because he still wants to at least try to prove something to himself. And just before he manages to reach the end, he gets the devil's mark right on his body. And everyone else is kind of really taken with Tom's, gusto for the most part. He went with it, he went for it, he got beat, but, he still tried his best. And, they're impressed by that for the most part. And he's even dubbed with the club jacket by Hekapu because they're still very impressed with what he decided to do, all things considered. And Tom ultimately decides that while he's happy to have gotten the jacket and at least taking a moment to try to prove something, at least to himself, he's done with dragon riding or any kind of this dangerous stunt stuff anymore after having his face basically just bashed in for the most part. And then we then take a moment off to side B, the monster and the queen, where we see that Star is writing in her diary about the fact that apparently Seahorse has been arrested for kidnapping Queen Eclipsa, but apparently Ponyhead finds him more attractive because of this, and all I'm thinking is, wait, wasn't the whole kidnapping Queen Eclipsa thing Ponyhead's idea? Shouldn't she have been arrested? Like, lock her up. For the love of God. Just lock her up and throw away the key. Just, no. Like, Jesus, Ponyhead. But whatever. Even Star kind of laments to say that, it doesn't make any sense for you to want to get back together with him. You'll never see him because he's in jail now. We then see that Glossaric, has been rummaging through Star's closet, taking a few things here and there from it, and he justifies this by saying that he's not the only one who has taken something from Star's possession, namely the last little bitty piece of the Book of Spells. We then see Eclipsa descending down the castle, Muni Castle in fact, with a present in hand, making her way to the underwater catacombs. And she ends up encountering Globgor of all people. Globgor, who here is actually voiced by Jaime Camille, who is known for his role in Jane the Virgin as Regalio de la Vega, and Legends of the Three Caballeros as Panchito, DuckTales as Don Carnage. So it's just like a very prominent Mexican actor, and he has such a sweet voice. That's the thing about his character. Always has this very sweet voice, and he can always turn on the fearsomeness here and there, but he always just sounds so charming and friendly that you can't really completely feel threatened by him. And he pushes Eclipsa through the cavern and shrinks himself in order to be closer with her. And he mentions the fact that he makes jokes about his vegetarianism and how he used to back in the day try to eat minors and stuff like that. Very poor taste jokes, but Eclipsa is still charmed by his overall caring demeanor. He's very friendly, very sweet guy. Globgor is very nice, and they even have these moments of fun where Globgor will increase his size while Eclipsa's riding on his shoulder, and she'll just slowly descend, and they'll even have moments where Globgor will shrink down and ride on Eclipsa's shoulder as she flies through the sky. And we even have this lovely duet between the two of them about wanting to be together, hopefully one day, in peace and harmony. And it's a very touching, sweet moment that really just drives home that while Globgor back in the day might have been a brutal monster for the most part, he gave up all of that in order to be with Eclipsa because he cares so much for her, and Eclipsa cares so much for him. That's why she kept pursuing him, despite any kind of misgivings he might have had in the beginning. Well, she might have had in the beginning. But once they get to the picnic spot, Globgor mentions that, apparently all their picnic stuff had been stolen. So he kind of goes on a rampage, thinking the nearby miners are responsible. Only for him to make it known that it's basically him playing a trick on Eclipsa because he realizes their whole surroundings are completely fake. Nothing around them is actually real. And he explains this by saying this is because he noticed that in the sky is this childhood character he made up back in the day. So he kind of put two and two together and realized, okay, this is some kind of fantasy world made up of my memories or in my mind or something. And the eclipse does reveal that they are inside of Globgor's mind. He is still imprisoned within Romulus's crystal, and they are simply just spending time together within his brain, which Globgor's just like, that's kind of creepy, boo. I love the way he nonchalantly says that. It's just like, yeah, that's sweet, but it's kind of creepy. And they kind of reminisce about the outside world, that Eclipse is free, that Meteora is fine, she's taken very much after the both of them, and Globgor laments on the fact that he can't be out there with his daughter and his wife and the love of his life. And Eclipse mentions that she has figured out the crystal pulverization spell, and all she needs to do is remove this ribbon from the chicken's beak, and it'll destroy the crystal that Globgor is within and free him, finally. But Globgor laments that that might not be the best way to go about things. He is probably still feared by the human population, and they aren't ready to truly accept him. And he ultimately says that he might not be ready to actually even be with people again after what happened to him in the past. So, it might have something to do with the fact that Meteor was given away, and then he went on this rampage, and he still feels very bitter about it, because it's very obvious that Globgor cares for his family first and foremost. And he ultimately tells Eclipse that you must understand that ultimately, if the people don't want me back, then it's best that I might not come back until they're truly ready for me. And so he dissuades Eclipse from, freeing him, ultimately, agreeing with his sentiment. And so she returns back to the real world, where she finds Star, who is very cross with her for the most part, as she's gone behind her back and retaking the pace from the Book of Spells to create the book using Glossaric silkworms. And when Star asks Eclipse when Globgor will be freed, Eclipse mentions that ultimately he decided that Muni wasn't ready for his return, to which Star's just kind of like, well, yeah, you should have known this already. We've been over this ad nauseum. Well, and she's, a little upset, just wondering why she would even think this was a viable option, and how did she even get this information. And Eclipse just mentions that she snuck into Star's mind in order to find out about it, which Star's just like, yeah, that's kind of creepy. And Eclipse is just like, yeah, I've been told that. And she does end up apologizing to Star, because she does actually very much care for Star, and she wants Star's forgiveness. But Star mentions that she doesn't need her forgiveness. She should be caring more about what the people think about her. She should care and be doing more for her people. But Eclipse completely brushes this off, saying that she hasn't even received a proper coronation, so she's not even a true queen at this point. And Star just puts her foot down on this, almost like a parent, just saying that if that's what's keeping you from truly looking out for your people, because Eclipse up until this point has continuously ignored putting any actual responsibility forth towards her people, not doing anything to clean up Muni Castle, or try to bring in the human people in order to integrate them fully and look out for their issues, actually show that she has their best interest in mind. So Star's putting her foot down now, saying that I will go through with your coronation, and that way it'll make it so that you have no excuses for not doing your duty as queen. There's no more running away from this. It is your position to be Queen of Muni, and come hell or high water, Star is gonna make sure Eclipsa does her duty. And ultimately, Star does empathize with Eclipsa, despite this betrayal of trust, which, this kind of goes both ways because Star kind of hid this from Eclipsa, showing that she didn't trust Eclipsa either. So it kind of goes both ways, I feel, and we're not addressing that, but Star mentions that she does know how it feels to just be so in love and caring about something that you go to any lengths to have them back. But they end their conversation there, just kind of letting bygones be bygones, leaving Eclipsa with her own thoughts about what to do from here on out, and the fact that she might never truly be together with Globgor again. Maybe. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about these two episodes? Did you enjoy the bonding moment between Tom and Marco? How did you feel about the fact that Kelly and Marco's not breakup happened completely off screen? What did you feel about Eclipsa just going behind Star's back in order to recreate the Book of Spells? Who do you feel is in the wrong here, or do you ultimately not blame Eclipsa for doing what she did? And how did you feel about Globgor, finally hearing his voice and getting to know his personality and how sweet he can be deep down? Tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below. And if you like this video, feel free to leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below so I might better myself for future videos. And how about subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you never miss another episode review of Star versus the Forces of Evil. And until then, hey, how about finding me on social media by googling Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere, and if I'm not, just feel free to tell me, and I will be everywhere, for better or for worse. And until the next episode, remember to always keep your loved ones in mind. Bye-bye.